Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1541B, and today's date is April 10th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, The Agenda is Set, Conflict Levels Rise, Deep State Goes for It All. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, it looks like they are getting very nervous. Think about what is happening right now. There's about 25,000 plus indictments. The seal is going to be broken, and we're going to see many of these individuals being hauled into court. We also understand there's an investigation going on with FISA that implicates Rod Rosenstein, Loretta Lynch, it implicates Obama, and many others. We also know there's the Clinton email and the Uranium One investigation going on, all at the same time. And what is happening right now is that as these investigations move forward, the deep state is getting wind, and those individuals that are the low-hanging fruit, they're going to get hit first, and they're getting very nervous, and they want to protect themselves. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to move on Trump to get him very quickly on anything they possibly can. And we can see that right now that they've been using, Stormy Daniels, they've been using all these different things, saying that he had sex with Playboy models and all this, which is actually, it means nothing at this point because it happened before he was president. And of course, they're trying to link the money that was given to Stormy Daniels from the attorney back to Trump. Now, they're trying to do all of this and trying to prove that he had connections with anyone. And what we see is that the FBI raided Cohen's office. And Trump went crazy over this, saying this is a whole new level of unfairness. And he said this is an attack on our country. And once again, he brought up the fact no one is looking at the other side. Well, these individuals that are doing all of this, they are the other side. And he went on to say that, attorney-client privilege is dead, because he's right. Because the communication between clients and lawyers are usually beyond the reach of law enforcement based on constitutional privilege. Now, of course, are they going to try to make some type of provision or waive this type of provision or do something like that to try to get that information? Of course they are. Why do you think there was a fire on the 50th floor, and I believe his office was like something on the 26th floor? Why do you think all of this is happening? They needed a distraction. They needed to get in there. They were also looking at other things during this period of time. Now, of course, this was all signed off by Rod Rosenstein. He personally approved the FBI raid on Trump's lawyer. Think about this for a second. He is getting very nervous. Now, Q even mentioned this on April 9th, saying RR problems, that, again, something was going on with Rosenstein, and he already mentioned this, and we can see right now that there's a reason why they are taking action right now, because they're nervous, and they're trying to stop what is coming. Now, Mueller is taking his investigation with Trump to the next level. Now, he's looking at everything, the finances, the donations to his campaign. This has nothing to do with collusion anymore with Russia. This is completely off track at this point. Now, Mueller is investigating a $150,000 donation to the Trump Foundation that was given from a pro-European Ukrainian businessman during the early days of his campaign. Now, he's looking into this, and he wants to know what this is all about. But there's a catch. The Pinchuk, who is the Ukrainian businessman, who has a history of supporting a pro-European Ukraine, was also a major Clinton donor. Now, think about this for a second. He gave the Clinton Foundation quite a bit of money. He also gave Trump $150,000. Now, the amount that he actually gave Clinton was a lot more than $150,000. Between 2009 and 2013, including when Mrs. Clinton was Secretary of State, the Clinton Foundation received at least $8.6 million from Victor Pinchuk from his foundation, according to that foundation. He gave more than $13 million to the Clinton Foundation since 2006 and promised to give more. Meanwhile, he paid Trump $150,000. So that's roughly 88 times more for Clinton than Trump. Why is Mueller looking into Trump? I mean, shouldn't he be looking into all these individuals? Now, think about what's happening here. This whole thing is being pushed right now because they have nothing on Trump and they're getting scared, they're getting nervous. And I keep hearing and I keep seeing in the corporate media that Trump should fire Mueller. I believe that would be the worst thing that he could ever do, because then it would show that he's trying to hide something. I think he needs to keep Mueller on, just like he's been doing, to show that he has nothing to hide. Now, again, Mueller, he is going all over the place. He has absolutely nothing. We've learned that Carter Page, Manafort, they're all plants, and they try to push, the idea to try to get other people involved in this, but it didn't work out. And what we're seeing right now is the deep state, they're getting very nervous. Now, at the same time all of this is happening, we see Mark Zuckerberg is testifying in front of Congress, but he's not under oath. And of course, he's making his apologies. I'm sorry for stealing your data, but let's go back in time a little bit. And TechCrunch really put this together and put together the timeline of what has been happening with Facebook. If we go back to September 2006, Facebook launches their newsfeed, broadcasting the personal details of Facebook users, including relationship changes without their knowledge or consent. And people went crazy over this and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is our privacy. We didn't give you permission to do this. In November of 2007, Facebook launches a program called Beacon, injecting personal information such as users' online purchases and video rentals on third-party sites into the newsfeed without their knowledge or consent. Fast forward to May 2008, a complaint is filed with the Privacy Commissioner of Canada concerning the unnecessary and non-consensual collection and use of personal information by Facebook. February 2009, Facebook revises its terms of service to state that users can't delete their data when they leave the service, and there's another outcry saying this is ridiculous. I want my data removed. December 2009, Facebook again revises its privacy policy and the privacy settings for users, and now, in a fell swoop, it makes a range of personal information public by default. Fast forward to November 2011, Facebook settles an 8-count FTC complaint over deceptive privacy practices. September 2012, Facebook turns off an automatic facial recognition feature in Europe, following another audit by Ireland's Data Protection Commission. April 2013, Facebook launches partner categories, further enriching the capabilities of its ad targeting platform by linking up with major data broker companies which hold aggregate pools of third-party data. And of course, it violates people's privacy. May 2014, Cambridge University professor runs a pilot of a personality test app called This Is Your Digital Life on Facebook's platform with around 10,000 users. And his company, GSR, then signs a data licensing contract with political consultancy Cambridge Analytica in June 2014 to supply it with psychological profiles linked to U.S. voters. February 2015, a highly critical report by Belgium's data watchdog examining another updated Facebook privacy policy asserts the company is breaching EU privacy laws. And this goes on and on and on, where Facebook continually violates the user's privacy. They sell the data, they keep apologizing, they change their terms of service, and this goes on and on and on until we reach today, where on April 2018, Facebook reveals that somewhere between 1 billion and 2 billion users have had their public Facebook information scraped via a now disabled feature which allowed people to look up users by inputting a phone number or email. April 2018, The UK's data watchdog confirms Facebook is one of 30 companies it's investigating as part of an almost year-long probe into the use of personal data and analytics for political targeting. Remember, all of this is put together with a central algorithm which the deep state uses, the intelligence agencies use to spy on everyone, to collect the data. This is their spying apparatus, and what is happening right now is they're being taken down. We see right now with the Skripal case, things are getting stranger and stranger, and it looks like they're starting to cover up everything. And Dr. Patricia Lewis, a research director for international security at the Chatham House, said whoever used a Novichok chemical against the Skripals would have known it would be traced back to Russia. She said British experts would have been able to detect minute trace elements proving the nerve agent's country of origin, and would therefore have been able to rule out the possibility it was from stocks developed by other nations for the purposes of devising defenses against it. The experts, she said, would not just have relied on the fact that Russia was the country which developed Novichok. There are ways to detect and be much more sure about where it came from. Dr. Lewis, who served on the 2004-2006 WMD commission chaired by Dr. Hans Blix, there are very high-resolution analysis techniques that can track down trace elements, certain types of chemicals in a particular region where it has been made. Now, if they used these tests, they would have known right off the bat where it came from, which tells us that they're the ones who most likely created it. Because right now, they're kind of holding the Skripals hostage. They're being held against their will. Then what they're going to do is they're going to give them new identities. Even Russia's out there saying, once they're giving new identities, we will never ever see them again, which means they will be disposed of. We'll never hear them speak. Right now, they're being held against their will, even with an old treaty from 1968. And this treaty is still in effect. It's Article 36 of a still valid 1968 Soviet-Russia-UK treaty. A consular officer shall be entitled to communicate with, interview, and advise a national, and may render every assistance, including aid and legal advice. No restrictions shall be placed by the receiving state upon the access to a national or any communication obstruction. The treaty also allows the Russian embassy to designate Victoria or another party to represent the hospitalized Skripals, required to let them meet unhindered. The UK is not allowing to do this. They're not honoring this. Why? Think about all these questions of what is going on there. And now they're being caught in this scandal where they lied about the poisoning. Russia's bringing up the treaty, and they're going to whisk these individuals away, and they're never going to be heard from again. Now, out in Syria, we can see that everything is really starting to heat up, and we can see that the corporate media is talking war. Alternative media stations, channels are talking war, World War III, and whatnot. And we can see at this point why everyone might think this. Now, first of all, Russian forces, they've been jamming U.S. drones in Syria airspace. They have incredible technology which jams the U.S. drones, and it's very sophisticated, and basically they're able to land the drones or basically crash them. Now, this chemical attack that has been brought up, we knew it was coming. We had the intel. We knew they were going to try a false flag. Russia even warned about this. And we can see that Nikki Haley, the deep state, they're all out there pushing the idea that Assad has done this. Now, if you really look at this, this is the same playbook they've been using over and over and over. And they're still trying to get the same results. They want the president to order an airstrike. They want troops in Syria, and they want Assad taken out. They're still pushing the same exact goal. So what's happening right now? Well, we have a U.S. Navy destroyer armed with Tomahawks. It arrived off the Syrian coast, and they did not notify Russia. This is what the corporate media is saying, but behind the scenes, they were notified. They know exactly what's going on. This was pre-planned because they knew there was going to be some type of false flag, and this is being orchestrated for the corporate media, for the deep state, to basically allow them to show their hand. And we can see right now, Trump and the Patriots are putting on a very big production. Now, the U.S. has deployed the Truman Carrier Strike Group and 7 warships, which is going to meet up with the USS Donald Cook off the Syrian coast. Now, the aircraft carrier will be accompanied by guided missile destroyers and many other ships. Now, the thing to realize, and we need to go back in time, when there was the initial gas attack back in, I think it was 2013, the ships were already there. They were already there, ready to go, because this was pre-planned. All the ships aren't there this time. So they are taking the ships and they're going to be sailing them to Syria. Now, it's going to take 6 to 7 days for the group to cross the Atlantic at 30 knots. Maybe they can push this to 5 days. Let's say they do. It's going to take another 3 to 4 days to arrive in the Mediterranean Sea to reach Syria. So we're looking at around 9 days or so for the strike group to reach that area. What can be done in 9 days? Well, we know from Q said the clown's report needs to be verified in all caps, which means we need evidence, proof that Assad actually did this. And I do believe that Trump and the Patriots and Russia, they already know that this is a false flag. They already know that this was going to be done. Now, Russia has already vetoed the U.S. resolution in the UN. And Russia is going to be submitting their UN resolution to investigate the alleged Syria chemical attack, which, again, the deep state doesn't want. They don't want an investigation because if there's actual individuals that go into Syria, now remember, each chemical attack, they didn't have an investigation team go into Syria. They just took the reports and said, okay, here's our decision. So they didn't do any type of investigation. Now, Syria, they are going to invite the OPCW, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, for a fact-finding mission and to visit the Doma region. So they want the team in there on ground zero to gather evidence. Now think about this for a second. If this does happen and they gather evidence, the deep state story is going to fall apart because it's going to show, and you know that Syria, Russia, the US, they're going to make sure that this investigation is going the way they want, which means a real investigation, not a deep state investigation where they don't do anything and they just come out with their answer. We know that they're going to investigate and they're going to find out what really happened here. Now, if we find out that it was staged, think of the ramifications. Think about what this whole thing would mean. And we have the strike group coming at the same time. Maybe the strike group is going to help remove the troops from Syria. That'd be interesting. Maybe take out all the military assets, bring them back home. That's a possibility. So we can see right now that the OPCW is going to travel to Syria to investigate what has happened. Now, the UN has admitted that it is unable to independently verify the allegations. We're not in a position at this point to independently verify the allegations about the alleged chemical attack in Doma, but obviously any allegation of continued use of chemical weapons is extremely, extremely troubling. And this is coming from Stefan Dujarric, the spokesman for the UN Secretary General. And we see that right now there's no evidence. Even though Nikki Haley's saying we don't care what the evidence is, we need to remove Assad. And that's because she knows once they get the evidence, it's going to show that Assad didn't do this. Russia knows it. Syria knows it. We already know because we already reported that there was going to be a false flag, and they were already bringing in the chemicals. They were setting it up in this area, and we already knew they were going to try to do this. Now, Russia has delivered 40 Pantsir S-1 air defense systems to Syria, and it's designed to defend installations and to provide cover for long-range air defense systems. And the Syrian military actively uses the Pantsir S-1 systems to defend their airfield and other military facilities. So they're bringing in more to make sure that they can control and protect the airfields from attacks, just like the one Israel did. Now, France is warning that they will respond if the red line is crossed in Syria. And France will retaliate against the regime of Assad if evidence emerges that he was behind this. Now, once again, why would Assad, Russia, invite the OPCW into Syria to investigate if they are behind this? It makes no sense. Why would they have the OPCW come in there, run tests, look at the disaster area at ground zero, take samples, ask questions, talk to people? Why would they do all of this? It doesn't make any sense. And we can see right now it's because Syria and Russia, they're not behind this. They want the truth to come out. Q is already saying this has to be verified. And I think what's happening right now with all these carrier groups and the ships going over there, this is one gigantic production. Now, if the evidence does come out and it shows that it was the white helmets, it was the terrorist groups, well, yeah, Russia, the U.S., they should fire missiles on these terrorist groups. The Syrian moderate rebels, the Syrian Democratic Forces, the Islamic State. That would make sense. They're using chemical weapons in the country and they should be destroyed, right? But again, this is not what the deep state wants. But this is one gigantic production. It always reminds me of North Korea, where they kept saying that, aircraft carriers are going to North Korea, the drills are happening, attack is imminent, we're going to be going in, this is how many people are going to be lost. It sounds like the same exact thing. And this is being played up like there's no tomorrow. But behind the scenes, they're going to get to the bottom of this. And I think this time we're going to see hard evidence of what really happened in Syria. And the finger is going to be pointed at the terrorist groups, at the Syrian Democratic Forces, at the white helmets. Because this needs to be done. Because we've seen this played out time and time again, and every single time it turns out to be absolutely fake. It's time to take what has happened and force out who is responsible for this, really responsible for this, and who sets this up every single time. We're at that point already. We see Iran is threatening to restart their nuclear enrichment. It can begin within 4 days, and if this happens, well, guess what? The deal is off. The Iranian deal that Obama made is completely off. Now, if you really think about this Iranian deal, the P5+1 that Obama made, think about why they did this. First of all, it was to prevent Iran from creating a nuclear weapon. And it will allow them to go into Iran because they know from the inspections they didn't create a nuclear weapon, so they didn't have to be afraid of that. Because they knew they were going to go into Syria, then Iran. Plus, they could use the deal as the reason why they could invade Iran. Now again, there are deep state operatives inside of Iran that are pushing regime change, just like in North Korea, creating a nuclear weapon, putting the publication out there that they're getting ready to develop a nuclear weapon, and they want the invading force to come in. This is what they're working on. It's the same plan that was happening in North Korea. Both had deep state operatives within the country. They put out publications telling everyone that, nuclear weapons are being created. This is what's happening. Time to invade the country. It's done on purpose to get the U.S. involved in invading these countries. And when Q said Iran is next, right after North Korea, it means not to invade Iran, but to go in and rout out the deep state, to get them out of the country, to have peace with Iran. So everything is starting to heat up. We're going to have to see what happens. But I do believe that this is one gigantic show. They're waiting, and this is why the strike group is going to take so long to get there, because they want the inspectors to go there to inspect, to get a report, and it's buying some time right now to let everyone calm down and let the information come out. And hopefully we have evidence that it was the terrorist groups, it was the Syrian Democratic Forces, it was the deep state, because that will change everything. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.